Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to Cilinix Crypto. Hope you're all doing great. Hope you're all holding on relatively safe this volatile day in the markets. Because after I did my morning updates, obviously a lot changed. We got some major news. To be completely honest, there's a lot to talk about. All right, so we will probably not focus on altcoins that much, but that's in general also. I'll briefly go over them, but in general, right now, altcoins just depend on Bitcoin. All right. What you can see is that the entire market is very correlated. So we'll talk about Bitcoin a lot, and we'll talk about all the news, and then hopefully you know enough to know what's going on, so you can make your own decision. But yeah, like I said, a lot to talk about. Some news came out, or at least, well, a lot of news came out, but also some economic data. So let's get right into it. All right, I'll try my best to cover everything and to give you my thoughts. Now, first of all, after I made the videos this morning, and by the way, I have a little bit of a sore throat, so if I cough here and there, excuse me. Hopefully you can forgive me. I think most of you are used to it as well. But after I made the videos, we got the news that China retaliates with new tariffs. I think they put like 30-something tariffs on US imports. I will probably have a little bit of a contrarian opinion on that, and that is that, you know, if I think this is a de-escalation, all right? Now, what we do have to say is that the stock markets after that absolutely crashed again, all right? And you can see the volatility index right now is at major highs, all right? So the market does not agree with me. But ultimately, what is true is that China exports way more, almost 3 times more, to the US, and that's going to be tariffed at like 57%. Those are the tariffs by Donald Trump. And the US exports like $140 billion in goods to China, and those will be those will have the tariffs that were announced today. So what that basically means is that China is much more affected by the tariffs placed by Trump than that the US is affected by the tariffs placed by Xi Jinping. Right, so therefore, I think this is a bit of a de-escalation. Now, obviously, talking about the tariffs, and that's the last what I'll say about this. To me, it feels like a de-escalation. To me, this also seems like like an overreaction by the stock markets. Ultimately, if the United States is going to retaliate again, we will drop down lower. All right, if this becomes a full trade war, every escalation will send the markets lower. So that means U.S. equities. That also means Bitcoin. All right, and crypto in general. Know that. So that's my thoughts on tariffs, and that's also what we kind of have to think about regarding the news. We also got some economic data. All right, we had non-farm payrolls and unemployment rate. Unemployment rate higher than expected. Non-farm payrolls higher than expected. So this is basically mixed data. Unemployment rate matters the most. Higher than expected data is usually seen as bullish, all right? Because that means that we are closer to getting interest rate cuts, which are bullish for financial markets. The one time that unemployment rates were higher than expected were bearish was last year, August, when there were fears of a recession. So again, this data on the surface it's bullish, but if we actually get some sort of recession fear, this could also send the markets down lower. So in general, let's be completely honest with each other. There's just so much news that we cannot really predict where the market is going, and it's best to stay out. I do have one position open here, but when we take a look at Bitcoin here, and I'm looking at my script to see if I'm talking about everything, but we talked about tariffs. We talked about the data. Look, the most important thing, Bitcoin is still within the range, right? So Bitcoin is still holding between 84,400 and 81,000. This morning we were quite strong, and we also saw a Coinbase Bitcoin premium come into existence. So Bitcoin in general as well, if you compare it to US equities, has been quite strong. So therefore, I'm not ruling anything out. All right, we are consolidating here between 84,800 and 81,000, and ultimately what I think is going to make Bitcoin break out. So that's either a breakout or a breakdown. I call both of them a breakout. Is the continuation of what equity markets will do. Now, like I said, as long as there's no retaliation again by Trump, I think this is an overreaction, and I think it's most likely we will see some sort of recovery. Is that something you want to bet on? That's up to you. All right, I would definitely not bet on it because I say so. If you want to place longs right now in the markets, you should do it because you think so. All right. I think what China is doing right now is a de-escalation of the trade war. I think it's their kind of like they respond, but the response is less than what Trump did, and they hope it's over now. If it is over, I think this was the bottom. If it's not over, we're going down lower. All right, so it remains a major risk, but therefore I'm still leaning towards, because of my fundamental understanding and fundamental expectation of the trade war, I'm still leaning towards something like this, which to most of you will sound absolutely crazy. I understand, but it's based on my thoughts on the fundamentals. Am I buying Bitcoin right now? No. All right. But all right, so those are my thoughts on the markets. We'll talk about XRP briefly. Before that, I did want to tell you, for those of you who don't know, I have my own Signal group, all right? I run that together with another trader who is amazing. A huge amount of education in there, profitable trades as well. Even in this week, we've been massively profitable. If you DM me on Telegram or on X, that might be better because on Telegram there's a lot of impersonators. There's a special deal for a lifetime deal right now, so check that out. It's an amazing group to be a part of, but that's up to you. Now let's talk about XRP. Outside of that, there's not a lot of coins that are interesting. I still think Sui is quite interesting. I still think Curve DAO is quite interesting. I still think Sonic is quite interesting. Sonic is really strong, by the way. But outside of that, XRP, I haven't changed my mind. XRP is actually relatively stable. Still negative funding fee. So like I said, I mean, if we actually do see escalation, we're probably going down lower and we're going to do something like this. But I still do think that XRP is moving up to 2.25, 2.3 at least. Those are my thoughts. I think that's the most important things you need to know about. I could talk about a lot of altcoins right now. It would take a lot of time. I don't think it's worth your time right now, but that's what I think you need to know. So thank you for watching. Hopefully this helps. Take care and bye.